Da-da-da-da-da. I'm live. Uh, did I schedule this at 12 or 12:30? I think I scheduled it for 12, but somehow I thought it was 12:30. It says here I have 4 viewers, so welcome, I guess. Um, three down to three. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm live. Uh, did I schedule this at 12 or 12:30? I think I scheduled it for. I had myself open in a different tab. That's why. Okay. Down to 0 viewers. I scared you guys off. That's fine. So let's talk about why I why I titled this podcast "The Underground Man." As you saw as whoever saw in the what's that called, thumbnail, when you clicked on the video, whatever, you saw a picture of Dostoevsky. So of course it's inspired by the underground or notes from the underground. Um, So on the agenda, we have bits of Dostoevsky first, and I have with me notes from Underground, and I want to read and comment because in a way, um, retrospectively looking back on my life, I found myself thinking this. I was in this state at one point, but not anymore. So in a way, I'm taking the concept of the underground man and repurposing it for myself, uh, sort of a persona on the interwebs, on YouTube, whatever. It's pseudonymous for now, but I prefer to keep it that way. Okay, so let's get started with the first bit from Dostoevsky. I don't know how long this stream's going to go. I have an agenda laid out. That clicking noise, here's my mouse, of course. I'm just looking back and forth between my tabs. Okay, I can understand why podcasts are so involved because it's kind of difficult keeping everything straight. It's my first, well, I did a test video yesterday, but it's my first time doing this. Okay, so Dostoevsky. I am a sick man. I am a spiteful man. Let's stop there. I understand that state of mind, and I've been there. I still feel like I'm there. Um, it's a depressed state. It's, in a way, seeing the world for what it is, and like there's different approaches to how you react to it. So, of course, you have uh, Kierkegaard and either or who just threw his head back and laughed, or in this case, Dostoevsky, recognizing the state that I think ultimately, um, I'm not a philosopher or claim to be a philosopher. I'm sort of dipping my toes in philosophy and using it to shape how I view the world and so on and so forth. Um, yeah. So, anyways, when I think existentialism at its root, it's recognizing, well, as I don't know if any of you listening know who Slavoj Žižek is. He's a anti-capitalist philosopher, but that's besides the point. One of my favorite sayings of his is that the first primary purpose of philosophy is to realize what deep shit you're in. Um, so here in Notes Underground, he starts off by recognizing what deep shit he's in. Um, so let me start from the beginning again. I am a sick man. I am a spiteful man. I am an unattractive man. I believe my liver is diseased. However, I know nothing at all about my disease, and I do not know for certain what ails me. So he recognizes that he's diseased, but he doesn't know what it is exactly. And this could be taken metaphorically as well. the evangelical Christians would say, "Oh, it's your sinful nature. It's sin." But um, I believe religious thinking is an outdated way of thinking. It solved a lot of problems to get to where we are today, but it didn't solve. I forget which philosopher said this, but like, supposing that there's an afterlife, what problem does that solve now? It practically does nothing except help us sleep better at night, practically. Um, Anyways, moving on. So he doesn't know what ails him. I don't consult a doctor for it, and never have, though I have a respect for medicine and doctors. Besides, I am extremely superstitious, sufficiently so to respect medicine anyway. I am well educated enough not to be superstitious, but I am superstitious. And I'll speak personally from my own experience. I have bipolar disorder with a tendency towards mania. Depression never has been an issue for me. I had manic, like really sky high as a kite manic episodes that led to two hospitalizations. Um, so this underground man of Dostoevsky's is speaking from a depressed state, but for me, I if I'm not careful, I fly into mania. So my purposes for going underground, so to speak, are different from Dostoevsky's Underground Man, because Dostoevsky is like withdraw. Well, I've read this before, but I don't recall exactly the withdrawal. Like, a hermit withdrawing from society, like feels like he doesn't feel like he's in place in society. I feel a similar way, but for different reasons. Like when I flew off the handle going into mania, um, and seeing how that affected my relationships with, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but my reasons for going underground, so to speak, off the grid, as it were, a little bit different, I'd say. It's not from a depressed state. So, uh, going on, no, I refuse to consult a doctor from spite. That you probably will not understand. That, sorry, I will not. I'm stumbling over myself. Let me start over. No, I refuse to consult a doctor from spite. That you will that you probably will not understand. Sorry, I'm tripping over understanding this. Let me try that again. No, I refuse to consult a doctor from spite. That you probably will not understand. So he's not refused. He's not consulting a doctor from spite. Well, I understand it though. Of course, I can't explain who it is precisely that I am mortifying in this case by my spite. I am perfectly well aware that I cannot, quote, pay out the doctors by not consulting them. I know better than anyone that by all this I am only injuring myself and no one else. But still, if I don't consult a doctor, it is from spite. My liver is bad. Well, let it get worse. Um, so this is, for me, this is speaking metaphorically. Um, I'm in this condition where I've had a pursuit for the last, say, well, if I had to put a number, well, let's just say I had a pursuit for a number of years that has served me well, but I don't see it serving, now that I've had some clarity looking back, I don't see it working out in the long run. In a way, it's putting me in a path that I don't see working out. And in a way, am going my own way. I'm going underground. So this condition of, like I said, being a maniac and how that resulted, and Um, just looking forward, I see a different path that I want to take that I think is more meaningful for myself. Make, carving out my own path rather than fitting into the expectations of others. And what a day and age to do it, man. What a day and age where I can go on YouTube and let myself out anonymously for now. Okay. I think that's a good place just to, as an introductory for why I titled this podcast the Underground Man podcast. Let's see. Ooh, I'm how far in? I'm already like 17 minutes in. Okay. Now on the agenda, I linked to a Wikipedia article on the Underground Man. I put those there for whoever's listening to do that on your own time. There's a good video by some dude who talked about like the underground man and the psychology of the troll. I did some pseudonymous trolling over the years to so it's like I understand the um the viewpoint of how when people go on like the I don't know if it's resentment really. Um, sorry, I'm just clicking around. Warning, the stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. Blah, blah, blah. My internet connection sucks. Yeah, whatever. Let me see here. Oh, there's the live chat. That's where the chat is. Okay. Because I'm in the, whatchamacallit. I'm looking here in the live studio, I think it's called. And I'm still getting used to everything. Like I can see stream settings, analytics, stream health. Stream status is good. This is cool. But I'm trying to access like the description where the agenda is so I know what to talk about next. If I open it up in a new tab, I'm going to hear myself talking back to myself. Or I can just mute it, I guess. I don't know. I have it in a, here's what I'll do. Okay. I'll open it up here. Then I will, okay. Okay, so the gateway, so Dostoevsky was, so Notes from Underground was the inspiration for the title of this podcast. Now let's talk a little bit about my own personal philosophy. So I'm getting into existentialism. So Dostoevsky, of course, is considered sort of the, well, it was Kierkegaard who was considered the father of existentialism. I have this book, Existentialism from Dostoevsky to Sartre, compiled by Walter Kaufman. I somewhat, it's been a while since I picked it up. I'm somewhere in Kierkegaard. I need to go back over where I was exactly, but yeah. Existentialism is where I'm gravitating towards, as Walter Kaufman puts it, the refusal to belong to any school of thought, the repudiation of the adequacy of any body of beliefs, whatever, and especially of systems, and a marked dissatisfaction with traditional philosophy as superficial, academic, and remote from life. That is the heart of existentialism. So it's, in a way, it's taking the whole, well, there's the MGTOW community, men going their own way, but I don't necessarily line up with all their beliefs, so to speak. That's the thing. I don't like being pigeonholed. So the whole existentialism notion is like the refusal to, in a nutshell, like not being pigeonholed. It's like I am who I am. I have all these, influences that I've thought and taken into consideration. Um, and people who don't like taking responsibility for their existence, you know, put themselves in the comfortable little cubby saying, "Oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm an atheist. Oh, I'm a conservative. Oh, I'm a liberal," and just being told how to think as they, float their way through life. It's like, no, I don't think so. Nope, I don't think so. You only get one shot at life. So that's that. Now, I am obviously a dude, a man, a masculine male, and quite frankly, um, in today's society, day and age, um, a rare commodity uh, well, it's difficult to explain because I'm not where I want to be. I, as an honest appraisal of myself, I don't think I can offer a lot to a woman in my current state. To the kind of woman that I want. So that's kind of at the heart of my philosophy. Is well, it's not the heart of my philosophy because sexual expression is a big part of who we are, and obviously I'm a guy. I like women. I'm not going to go into that other stuff, but that's I don't care where you stick your genitals. I just care where I stick mine. Okay, that's that. We got over that. Now, I want to talk a bit about the MGTOW community. There's this, and I was only in one relationship in my life, and getting out of it, I thought to myself, okay, I want to prepare myself as much as I can for the next relationship. And the more I researched, the further and further the goalposts moved. Um, so let's start with. Oh, I forgot to put the Book of Puck in the agenda. We'll go over that. So let's talk about um, on Reddit. There's this subreddit called the Red Pill. Now, when I mentioned this to one of my friends a couple months ago, he said, "Oh no, you're an incel. Oh, you're doing blah blah blah," and it had a negative impression about it. It's like no, he had a misconception about what the red pill really is. The red pill is waking up to the reality of um, the intersexual dynamics between men and heterosexual, or as the social justice warriors were, the heteronormative aspects between men and women. The oppressive patriarchy. um, so obviously, there's a push for society being gynocentric and what the rational male Rollo Tomassi calls the feminine primary social order, I believe. I'm just going off the top of my head. So my first I heard about MGTOW from a friend, just like he made a joking reference to it, and I thought, huh, men going their own way. That sounds appealing, and um, my first introduction to MGTOW ideas was from Sandman, but I can't get past his voice. Hi everyone, Sandman here. He just the way he talks, man. It's like he's justifying his lack of but this is just the impression from his voice. He's justifying his low SMV, sexual market value. It's like, it sounds like someone who got beaten down by life and didn't fight back, you know. So this next guy I'm going to talk about, in retrospect, he kind of has the same. He's more of a he's. This is just super. I mean, I've delved into like videos and ideas, but this is just I don't know these people personally. These are just aliases over the internet. But both Sandman and this other, he was formerly on YouTube, but he switched over to BitChute. Turd Flinging Monkey. They both have. This is superficial, but in the tone of their voice, it just sounds like they got beaten down, and instead of fighting back, they just found a different path. Well, I guess that kind of describes me too, in a way. But instead of like beaten down, I'm riffing here. Bear with me. This is not scripted at all. So Sandman, Turd Flinging Monkey. Well, Turd Flinging Monkey had a much stronger impression on me than Sandman. I could not stand listening to Sandman. Although he talks about a lot of valid things and concerns about the state of men in the world right now. But there's the whole there's a bunch of things I wanted to talk about, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyways, back to the red pill. So MGTOW is technically, I guess, part of the red pill sphere, what we would call the manosphere, which are basically the heterosexual men community online, I guess you could say. Excuse me. So one of the first things for videos I came across was 10 things only red pill men understand about women. So I'm going to open it up, and for now we just have audio. I'm going to play around with streaming my desktop onto here, but for now I'm not comfortable doing that quite yet. I'm just going to have to play around with that privately. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to go through or not, audio-wise, so let me just open the link. 10 things only red pill men understand about women. Opening, and this is on BitChute. Let me turn up the volume.
Hey everyone, this is Turd Flinging Monkey. So a few days ago, Watch Mojo released a video called Top 10 Things Men Do Not Understand About Women. Now, Watch Mojo is, kind of a clickbaity channel. They release a lot of top 10 lists. It's pretty much all they do. It's their bread and butter. In this video, it wasn't particularly misandrist or anything. It was very lighthearted. It was there for entertainment. The only reason why I'm responding to it isn't because they said anything wrong, but because they didn't say anything at all. They listed these top 10 things, showed some movie clips, and just moved on. They didn't even propose any theories, even entertaining ones, to help explain these behaviors. So this video is less of a response to Watch Mojo. I'm not trying to counter anything they said. I'm actually trying to explain the problems and the issues and the behaviors that they addressed, because they didn't propose any explanations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain a comment I left on the video. Now, the comment I left at the time of this recording got 144 thumbs up and 52 replies, the overwhelming majority of which are negative. So without further ado, these are the top 10 things that only red pill men understand about women.
Number 10. Why do women order a salad and then eat my fries?
It's called the shit test. The woman is seeing if you'll stand up for yourself, bargain, or just roll over and let her take what she wants from you. If you let her take your fries without taking any of her food or even mentioning it or pushing back, then she knows that you're likely going to let her get away with far more. It's a way women test their limits with a man. It may seem entirely trivial that a woman wants to take your food. It's not the point that she takes your food, it's that she just reaches over and takes your food. She feels entitled to your food even though she has her own food. You see this in relationships all the time. This whole what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine attitude. The woman just feels entitled to whatever the man has, but likes to have her own things as well. This can only exist at the man's permission. If you're on a date and a girl just reaches over and takes your food, reach over and take her food. It's like she wants some of your fries, I don't know, grab her drink and just start drinking it. Do something to communicate that you're simply not just going to allow her to take what's yours without putting up any sort of fight. Now you don't have to start an argument, you can make it a game. She takes your food, you reach over and take her food, and then you both laugh about it. The point is, you're communicating to her that you're not simply going to allow her to just take what's yours without saying anything. That's what women are doing. These shit tests start very small, very trivially. They don't seem like a big deal at the time. But when they know they can get away with the little things, then they stab it up and try to get away with the big things. And if you've rolled over until then, you can't expect them to respect you down the road when they try to get away with the big things.
Number 9. Why are women so fixated on marriage?
Women's obsession with marriage is extremely easy to explain. Women require a man to take care of them.
Okay, I'm just going to stop this here for a second, and I'm going to see if the audio came through instead of me just sitting here silently. Let's see here. It says like the description where the agenda is, so I know what to talk about. Red pill sphere, what we would call
understand about women. Now, Watch Mojo is, kind of a clickbait.
Okay, so it did go through. All right. It's the balance is weird though. Okay, let me continue on.
They can't be a career woman and a mother at the same time. Now, I'm sure, and I got a lot of shit in the comment section for this, a woman can be a single mother and have a career, but she's going to be shit at both. She's not going to be able to climb the corporate ladder like she could because she has these kids. She's going to have to take time off. She's going to have to take sick days when the kids get sick or have an appointment. She's not really a career woman, she's just an affirmative action hire with a career. And the company is going to keep her where she can be easily replaced because they know if they put her in an important position, she can flake out on them. These women also make terrible mothers because they're too busy at work to properly take care of their kids. And some people who responded to my comment were very defensive about their single mothers. Now, I had a single mother. Single mothers are fucking terrible, and I have the statistics to back it up. If you had a single mother and you turned out okay, it was completely in spite of your mother being a single mother, not because she was a single mother. Had your mother had a husband, your childhood would have been far better. Everything that you loved about your single mother, the things she did right, would have been amplified and made better if she wasn't a single mother. There is no scenario I can imagine where a woman makes a better parent to a child as a single mother than in a loving, stable marriage. It's almost always better to have the father in the child's life, if for no other reason than you have another adult helping you raise the children. You're not trying to do both things yourself. Anyway, to continue on my comment, this creates a paradox. When a woman tries to be a career woman and a mother, it creates this paradox. The woman needs to acquire a man while she's young and attractive. But as men get older, they get more resources, they can attract better women. Until the age of about 50, the quality of woman he can attract goes up and up. So how does a woman ensure that she's going to be able to keep this man and ensure that she's taken care of for the rest of her life? As the man's sexual marketplace value increases as hers diminishes, the answer is marriage. You get a contract, you have the state pointed gun at the man to make sure that he can't leave. He has to take care of you. So women are obsessed with getting married because it's extremely important. A man, he can attract a woman for decades. As long as he's earning good money, women are going to be attracted to him. A woman has a much smaller window to attract a quality man. Once she hits her 30s and 40s, if she hasn't attracted a man by then, she's fucked. In some cultures, even the late 20s is considered an old maid. And as for the obsession about the wedding itself, it's because everything's about the woman. I mean, what does a man do at a wedding? He just stands there, doesn't talk. Everything's about the woman, the bride, everything's about the bride. And women just love to have everybody paying attention to them. So a wedding is the ultimate female social orgasm, where everybody's paying attention to them, where everything is about them. In fact, when women get old and they know that they're never going to get married because nobody wants to marry them, they sometimes marry themselves so that they can still have this ceremony, so they can still be the center of attention. It's really pathetic.
Number 8. Why do women love bad boys?
A woman will always desire a man that is better than herself. The reason why women are not attracted to nice guys and are actually turned off when a man is nice to them is because if a man is nice to them, that creates the perception that that man is equal or less valuable than herself. If you're like one of those nice guys who you know the woman's kind of out of your league and you're very nice to her because you're hoping to win her over, that's going to be a huge turnoff. You're never going to get in her pants. The reason why is you're communicating that you are less valuable than her. And because women have the hypergamous instinct, they will seek a mate that is greater than them. They're not going to settle for a man that is worth less or even equal. If they are equal, they're going to assume that they could do better. Because if they got you, women can always date up. Men basically always have to date down. If you understand sexual marketplace values, it's not that hard to figure out where you stand and where you should look. So if you're in a relationship, if you have a wife or girlfriend, I want you to think of this. I want you to do this thought experiment. If you were better looking, richer, whatever, if you could increase your value, maybe like you found a magic lamp and made a wish, you made yourself like super good looking and super rich, would you treat your wife or girlfriend differently? If the answer is yes, I'm not saying you would cheat on her or dump her. I'm just saying, would you treat her differently? Would you stop putting up with her shit, knowing that you had infinite options beyond her? If the answer is yes, I want you to start treating your wife or girlfriend like that, as if you had infinite options. Because what that does is it hacks her hypergamous instinct. If a man is nice to her, it communicates that the man is lower worth, and it will trigger her hypergamy to start seeking a better mate. However, when you treat a woman like you have options, that you're not going to kiss her ass and put up with her shit, you're communicating to her that you have higher value than her. And by communicating that, she will actually be more loyal to you. Now, I'm not saying this is a foolproof plan, that if you treat a woman like you don't care and that you have other things going on and you're not going to put up with her shit, that she's not going to cheat on you. I'm saying that it lessens the likelihood. She still may cheat on you. I mean, there's no guarantees in life. You're actually kind of using hypergamy to your advantage. When a woman tests you by seeing what you'll put up with, she's actually testing your worth. If you put up with her shit, you're communicating to her that she has higher worth than you. And that's why men who fail shit tests get dumped or cheated on. But men who pass shit tests by basically not putting up with the woman's shit is communicating to the woman that he has higher value than her. She will respond through her hypergamous instinct to value you as a partner. Now, I would say partner kind of facetiously, because women don't want a partner. They want a leader.
Number 7. But you said it was fine!
Alright, this is another version of the shit test. She wants you to fight for her and give her plausible deniability. She doesn't want to be responsible for her own words and actions. She wants you to be responsible. So if she's evasive and you take the initiative, then it's now your responsibility. Where if she outright told you what she was thinking and feeling, then she has to take responsibility for her own feelings, and she doesn't want to. She wants you to take responsibility for them. Now again, like I said, this is a shit test. She's trying to see if she can test your limits. The way to pass this shit test is you just walk away from her. Tell her that when she's ready to talk, to come find you, and then go back to what you were doing. She's going to be in a pissed off mood, but she's going to realize that if she wants to have a conversation with you about her feelings, she has to take responsibility for her feelings. What a concept.
Number 6. Why do women love gossip?
Alright, this one's pretty easy. Women love gossip because they rely on social control due to their limited ability to manipulate others physically. Because women are weaker than men, they have to rely on social manipulation to get what they want.
Okay, this goes on for another 10 minutes, but I think you get the idea. So MGTOW is basically, well, this video was like my entry point into understanding like the reality of what intersexual dynamics really are. And a lot of this is getting swept under the rug, um, because there's a lot of men. There's this whole thing about, oh, he's alpha or he's beta. It's not quite that simple. There's a lot of complexity to it, which leads into the Rational Male blog. Let me talk about what's called blue pill conditioning. So, say you have two different types of guys who have different mating strategies. There's well, not mating. Well, again, I'm just riffing. Bear with me. But you have, um, let's say, the nice guy. This is a frame of mind that I've been in, and it's never worked. I've totally ditched it, and I'm sure there's lots of guys who have succeeded with this strategy, but this is like the bottom 80% of guys set this strategy. Um, Basically, it's waiting out one girl. It's like I have to get my soulmate. Being the nice guy, buying her roses, bending over backwards for her. I'm not like those other guys. I think along your wavelength, and then she'll complain to the other guys like, why is he like that? Oh, you're not like the other guys. It's just like, women don't know what they want. So, and never consult a woman about how to date. So, like, a fish doesn't teach a fisherman how to catch the fish. A deer doesn't teach a wolf how to catch the deer. The wolves learn from the wolves. The fishermen learn from the fishermen. So, never ever take any dating advice from a woman. That's because I grew up, um, well, in high school particularly, I lived with my sister, my mother, and my grandmother. It was a bit of a complicated situation where my parents weren't separated; they were married, but it was I had to go to school in one place and had to live. Me and my sister had to go to school in a different place, and and my mom had to take care of my grandma, so I basically isolated myself in my room and was around women a lot of the time. Um, that was so I'm not going to get into details because I don't want to get doxxed, so to speak. That might be too much information already, but whatever. See what happens. So under the agenda, there's another video that I put by Turd, Flinging called "She'll Never Love You," and I want to tie that into the Rational Male blog. So if you're following along, I'm opening up the Rational Male, the best of year one. I mean, this guy's a fantastic writer in terms of, because the difference between him and MGTOW, well, I don't, you guys just do your own research. I don't want to explain things. So iron rule number 6. This is a lot of good stuff here, but what I want to talk about iron rule number 6. So this is something that this is going back to the underground man principle here. Um, I didn't realize that till just now. I'm brilliant. So this is going back to the underground man realizing his liver is diseased. So okay, iron rule number 6. Men believe that love matters for the sake of it, whereas women love opportunistically. Um, so he pulls a quote uh, from one of his commenters. I really, really hope the myth that girls are the hopeless romantics gets kicked to the curb ASAP. Everyone needs to realize that men are the romantics pretending to be realists, and women vice versa. So, iron rule of Tomassi number 6. Women are utterly incapable of loving a man in the way that a man expects to be loved. In its simplicity, this speaks volumes about the condition of men. It accurately expresses a pervasive nihilism that men must either confront and accept, or be driven insane in denial for the rest of their lives when they fail to come to terms with the disillusionment. Women are incapable of loving men in a way that a man idealizes as possible, in a way he thinks she should be capable of. In the same respect that women cannot appreciate the sacrifices men are expected to make in order to facilitate their imperatives, women can't actualize how a man would have himself loved by her. I'm tripping over that. In the same respect that women cannot appreciate the sacrifices men are expected to make in order to facilitate their imperatives, women can't actualize how a man would have himself loved by her. It is not the natural state of women, and the moment he attempts to explain his ideal love, that's the point at which his idealization becomes her obligation. Our girlfriends, our wives, daughters, and even our mothers are all incapable of this idealized love. As nice as it would be to relax, trust, and be vulnerable, upfront, rational, and open, the great abyss is still the lack of an inability for women to love men as men would like them to. For the plugged-in beta, this aspect of awakening is very difficult to confront. Even in the face of constant, often traumatic controversions to what a man hopes will be his reward for living up to qualifying for a woman's love and intimacy, he'll still hold on to that Disney-esque ideal. So this is going back to where I understand what it's like to be the underground man in the depressed state. So waking up to how women actually behave and think, waking up to that reality, it was dark and depressing. But rather than letting it hit me down, I confronted it. It's like I gotta work on myself, man. Gotta work on myself. That's what I've been doing for the past, oh God, 2.5 years. Yeah, just 2.5 years was when I broke up with my previous and only relationship, and I don't want to fuck up the next one. So, like I said, the goalposts kept moving further and further, and that's that's something that came from that line, the goalposts moving further and further. That line comes from the Book of Puck. I'll do that in another podcast talking about Book of Puck. Um, so yeah, um, being driven underground because it had to do. Uh, well, this might be given away to people who know me. This might be giving away who I am, but um, going manic and trying to understand my relationship with women, and that was not a good. Um, that was not a good chemical combination, and that basically resulted in some shit that spiraled me out of control. And I didn't really necessarily hit rock bottom, but I was, ugh, some. It was a rough. Let's see, it was like 18, 19. Yeah, 2000, summer 2018 through like November of this year. That was like a rough time, but things are looking up. Things are looking up. We'll get into more later. I'd like to. We're already 50 minutes in. I don't know how long I want these podcasts to be. I have a day off, so I can, I'm enjoying things as they go. Now it says here concurrent viewers 1. I'm guessing that's just me. When I first started, I had 4, but they all went away. Well, gotta start somewhere. wait a minute, live 44. I started at 1:30 or 12:30, but it says up here 50 minutes. Whatever. I'm still learning as I go along. So, to recap what we've done so far. Um, so, notes from underground, tying into my identity, going through MGTOW, red pill. Oh, there's this, from all the MGTOW people, there's this guy child, human, but emphasis on the man. I put a little video, live all you can. I like his videos. He articulates quite well. So yeah, I kind of want to break into the manosphere eventually. Um, like all the dudes. Not well, Rollo Tomassi. He also is part of a show called Rule Zero with these other guys. There's this guy called Rich Cooper with his YouTube channel Entrepreneurs in Cars. Really cool guy. Um, I was part of his men's community for a little while, but I needed to cut costs. It was only what, $45 a month, but I'm in a state where I need to pull my finances tighter. So I kind of one aspect of this channel I want to uh, be part of the manosphere eventually, but I don't know if I have the education, experience, etc. to be helpful to people. Well, I suppose I have some to be helpful to men, but yeah. Sorry, I'm just bouncing around here trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. So moving in, yeah. So underground man, I'm sort of figuring out my online persona here at the same time. So yeah, I've gone underground because I've wanted to figure out my place in how I relate myself to a woman in my future relationship. It's like I'm a hybrid MGTOW slash manosphere. I don't know, because there was a split in the manosphere. There was this 21 convention, where basically that guy who runs it calls himself Anthony Dream Johnson. From what I've seen, he's basically spiraling out of control. He went on Good Morning Britain, I think, with Pierce Morgan, and Pierce Morgan was making some valid points from what I recall. And Anthony Dream Johnson was like, "Oh, this ad hominem attack." I was like, well, it's not because Pierce Morgan was saying like, okay, you have this convention, the 22 convention, where you're teaching women how to be women, and he asks him if he's in a relationship, and he's currently single. That strikes me weird because I heard Anthony Dream Johnson was married to a prostitute. I don't know if I remember that correctly, but apparently he's single. I don't know, but apparently there was a split what happened at the 21 convention, and yeah, that's that. So I side with the true red pill guys. Well, I don't like I said earlier, the whole red pill. There's men's right activists that had a movie called The Red Pill, but that's not necessarily. Um, I was talking more about men's rights, like men who are getting divorce raped in courts. Um, from what I understand, so I'm just basically talking out of my ass right now. This is, like I said, this isn't scripted. This is pretty free form. Um, okay. Yeah, red pill. Manosphere. Rollo Tomassi, Rich Cooper, Real Zero, and there's also these other cool guys. There's Ryan Stone. I've only seen him on a handful of other videos, and then there's John from Modern Life Dating. Seems like a cool dude. I really want to see his body language mastery course, because the samples he gave out were really helpful. Like the whole when a girl gives you a hug, to gauge her interest, it's like, does she fully press her body up against you, or does she leave a gap? That was like a really helpful thing, as well as certain other cues. Go look that up. Body language mastery, John, Modern Life Dating. And there's this, I don't know him. There's Troy Francis. I don't know much about him other than what he's contributed to Rule Zero, which I can't think of stuff off the top of my head. Yeah. So those are my influences, so to speak. So I'm underground for now because I'm still figuring stuff out. And I don't know if I'll keep this label or not. I'd like to keep it. I like the little logo I made on Microsoft Paint. Like I said in my test video, that logo I made is inspired by a doodle I did in middle school. Actually, going back to elementary school, because I had this coloring book of Spider-Man and fighting Venom when I was like in 5th grade or something like that, and I liked Venom, like, so I copied his face, but I repurposed it to, I guess you could technically, like some nerd would say, ooh, that's a symbiote. It's a symbiote from the Marvel universe. That's copyrighted. Well, fuck off. I doodled it myself. I didn't lift it from Google Images, so there's that. All right, cool. What was I going to talk about next? So I'd like to talk about intersexual dynamics, sure, but I don't want to make that the main focus. I'd like to make, like, I've been inspired by Joe Rogan a bit. Like his two main things are like mixed martial arts and stand-up comedy, from what I understand. But he has like a huge variety of guests who come on his show. Like for instance, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, most recently Richard Dawkins. Well, not most recently. I just remembered. Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro. Yeah, I know some of you people may say, but I'm a fan. Ben Shapiro. Who else? Yeah, I'm sure. Well, he had Bernie Sanders on. Yeah, podcasts are amazing, man. It's like, that's a medium that's going to, it's already exploded, but it's going to take off even more and more and further, like just long form, as opposed to sound bites of the past. Okay. So let's talk about, oh man, how much, I don't want to go too far. See, I've been live for 53 minutes. Okay, let's talk about, so I have background in classical music. Again, that's probably people who are putting together the puzzles. That's like a dead giveaway of who I am, but whatever. Well, hopefully they don't put it together till a while down the road. So, yeah, I want to be a classical music critic because there's this, well, I don't know how to call it. There's this guy named Zoltan Wagner who has something called Living the Classical Life, and there's one title that caught my eye. Music criticism will never return to what it used to be, and it talks about this French horn player who turned into a music critic. So I'm just going to open it up and bounce around to where I can comment.
And go to some concerts and...
Oh, picked up what I was watching earlier.
Write something and we'll see if this will work. So I went out, I reviewed a recital, I reviewed a Cleveland Orchestra concert with Lauren Mazel conducting Prokofiev Fifth. And I reviewed a Cleveland Ballet performance because ballet dance was part of the job. And I went home, back to the bagel store, and a couple days later they called and invited me to come and be their music critic.
Okay, so yeah, I would like to be a music critic, but not like necessarily a local music critic. I wouldn't like having my name attached to the invective, as it were. I really need to read that one book, Lexicon of Musical Invective. Like there's like the bits that I've read about the Chopin concertos. I was like, yeah, because I don't like the Chopin concertos very much. I'll get into that later. Well, I should do a play-by-play of the Chopin, like what I don't like about the concertos. I don't know. Huh, that's a thought. I might do like some like score scrolling. Huh. I have some ideas going on. Okay. Okay, I can see where I'm thinking out loud here. I'm just thinking out loud. Okay, this podcast has some potential. All right. Has some potential. Has some potential. So this is like totally free form. I'm just going to be bouncing around here. Moving forward.
For what's happening between the performer and the audience. And so I think what Mr. Zimmerman says is very true. The music critic has to be so in sync with what's happening musically that he or she can be able to describe what that experience is like. And it only happens when you totally turn everything else off.
Okay, so from what I recall, he's saying like, let's say there's a performance that happens, and then in the arts and entertainment section of the newspaper the next day, there's a little paragraph about the Philharmonic Orchestra who did this overture, that concerto, that symphony, and how well it was put together. It's like general things um, for the connoisseur to open and say, "Oh, well, they had three performances this weekend. They did the performance last night. Last night was Friday night. I'll go for the Sunday matinee. See. Yeah, that's not necessarily what I'm after. I'm looking after specific invectives. Like, okay, um, not necessarily like they're playing the violins playing out of tune. No, well, that could be a factor, um, but more like saying, okay, there's this piece by this composer. This composer composed this piece at his time in his life. This is what he's trying to communicate. Um, the overall, well, this is deep and complex to explain, but all that's sort of the macro and then the micro. Let's take the late Beethoven string quartets, for example, like the state that Beethoven was in when he wrote them, the point of life, like when he was completely deaf by that point. Well, not completely deaf, but you understand what I mean. To those who understand. Um, and then there's the specifics about what he wrote in the score and whether or not the performers follow it, and what the performers' rationale for deviating from those, like they didn't see it, or the edition that they were working off of, like the publisher screwed, like the editor screwed with what the composer meant. Because that's a problem. For those of you who aren't aware. There's an issue of editors screwing with what the composer wrote because certain performers have problems executing what the composer wrote. It's like, no, no. Okay, I've realized that this whole video on music criticism will never return what it used to be. It's 30 minutes long, and I'm just skimming over certain parts. But, I don't want to go too much further on this podcast. This first introductory maiden voyage of my podcast. Who knows if it'll actually amount to anything, but moving right along, I'm skipping ahead.
And how it developed over many decades into the singular ensemble that it is. And it took a lot of work on many fronts.
Seems like he's talking about a specific group that he's reviewing. Let me see here.
Response to that concert. And so all of these other considerations essentially are meaningless. What's important is that you want to convey to the reader what happened and whether what happened was successful or whether it was a failure. And both of those things happen.
So what happens when you get feedback that isn't positive? Someone's in the audience who's angry at what you wrote, or the performer is offended. What do you do? What do you do then?
All I can say is it's one person's opinion. I mean, there's nothing you can do. Once you've written your review and once it's published, there it is. And today it's even more challenging because, once you press the button, it's on Google within 15 minutes and it's there forever. So you have to try not to bring these psychological barriers into your job as a critic. What you have to do is you have to sit there and try to reflect what you believe is the truth about that experience. I mean, that's what any journalist should do anyway. With a critic, it's a little different because you're not just reciting facts. You're blending the facts with the opinion.
So for most of music criticism, the profession, if we can call it that, relied on the existence of newspapers. I think that newspapers in printed form seem to be on their way out. A lot of newspapers in their online formats don't cover the arts anymore. Does the profession of music criticism still exist in the form that you knew it?
It certainly doesn't exist in the form that I knew it. There used to be, 15 years ago, I would say there were 75 full-time music critics at American newspapers. There are now about 15. But a lot of the job of being a music critic has shifted to the web. And there are a lot of online sites that cover classical music. And there are a lot of people writing about classical music. And there are some very good ones. And there are some very bad ones, as might be expected on this kind of a forum. But I don't know if it probably will never return to what it used to be. It's just not the reality of life today in the internet world.
It seems to me that online anyone can be a critic these days. You read
Right.
whatever feedback is left on a recording on Amazon. What sets apart your role as a serious critic from just the opportunity that anyone can be a critic?
Well, again, I think it goes back to your training, your experience, your ability to treat it with great seriousness. And when I say serious, that doesn't mean without humor, but it means that you need to have a real connection with the subject and with the artists in terms of knowing or perceiving what they're doing and not just using it as a forum for a hobby or being a fan. That's, I think, detrimental to the field.
Your journey here in Cleveland with the Cleveland Orchestra eventually led to you publishing your magnum opus, a 700-page book about the Cleveland Orchestra story. How did this project come about, and how were you changed as a person as a result of this project?
This happened because David Gray, the publisher.
Okay, let me stop there. Yeah. Interesting stuff. I am thinking. So in these dead spaces, I'm basically thinking. I'm doing like a zillion different things at once right now, because that's what I like to do when I listen to stuff. I'm listening, but I'm also multitasking. I put ambition as an armchair critic in the agenda, because but music, politics, culture, etc. Because why I put armchair critic, because it's like I don't necessarily, I'm not necessarily capable of doing these things that I'm criticizing, but I'm just speaking it from my perspective. Um, well, that's what this whole podcast is predicated on, just my own perceptions. I'm here to learn and here to think and here to, it's basically take things in, think things through. It's like input, process, output. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. From a thoughtful perspective and working on controlling my emotional reactions to things, because emotions are important, but I'm trying to put it through the wine press, as it were. Not necessarily in an Ayn Rand sort of way, like man's only thing is reason. Reason is first and foremost. It's like, like Nietzsche has a point of like, knowledge should serve man, but man shouldn't serve knowledge. Anyways, a lot of complicated things to talk about. So, at the bottom of the agenda, I put politics. Oh boy, I don't know how much I'm going to get into that, but I put thoughts on the Democratic debate. I'm not going to get into that. I'd like to wrap up this podcast, this first podcast, with how Sargon of Akkad aptly put it. Basically, Bloomberg, everybody lined up to kick Bloomberg in the balls. That's basically what happened. Okay, all right. I am going to end this here with a whopping one concurrent viewer, which is probably only me, and nobody left any comments. So it's probably just me this whole time, just talking to myself. Someone will come along and see what this was all about. Okay, hopefully. All right. This is the Underground Man signing off. If I could figure out how to sign off. Create highlight video, share, live stream settings. Here it is. End stream in big red. How did I miss that? All right. Okay. Goodbye.